Hello out there, not Anthony Fantano here, and unfortunately for you all, I am still alive. So, as a way for me to say sorry I'm late, here is my list of the 20 best albums that came out in 2023. 2023 was a rather strange year, at least for me when it comes to music, considering that back in 2020, I heard nearly 200 new albums, and last year it was at around 60 new albums that I heard, which is the first time I ever heard a very small amount of new albums. In fact, it was really hard for me to come up with at least 20 albums that I really enjoyed from 2023, mostly because a lot of it was, I guess the nicest way to say it, a bit mid to maybe okay. Not a lot of albums really caught my attention last year. However, after, thinking it over, I was able to find at least 20 albums that really impacted me back in 2023. So without a further ado, let's get to it. Starting off at number 20, we got Once Upon a Time by Deante' Hitchcock, a record that I admittedly might have rated a bit too high, which is the reason why it's at number 20, but I still wanted to give it a shout out because it was the first rap record of 2023 that I genuinely had a lot of fun with, one that I truly enjoyed, not only the wacky, silly songs, including the Drunk AF song or the Zodiac sign, but I just really loved the few lyrical moments in it. Deante is someone who, although has a very goofy personality, his lyricism and wisdom are just really great, and you see it a lot in this record. I love the overall sort of How I Met Your Mother concept, him going through the trial and errors of finding love, which leads to him meeting his wife, which leads to him having his first child. So overall, pretty cool concept. Obviously, a lot more better albums have come out since this album came out back in May. But once again, I still wanted to give it a shout out since it was a record that I had a lot of fun with. It had a really good balance of the serious and silliness and everything. Just overall Deante being, once again, a unique rapper that hip hop really needs right now. He's not really following a specific norm. He's just out here doing a bunch of different stuff, which is something I will always appreciate in a rap artist. At number 19, we got the sophomore album by Laufey, Bewitched, which is a much more bolder and personal experience than her first full-length album, with some of the most creative sort of jazz production I've heard. Not only does it sort of stay in that traditional jazz style, but it has a lot of different experimental production in it as well, including the acoustic guitars that give off a sort of indie bedroom pop vibe, the soulful pianos. And aside from that, it's Laufey's lyrics and voice that really complete this experience. She has definitely one of the most near perfect vocals I've heard in a very, very long time. And her lyrics are not only poetically creative, but incredibly relatable as well. It definitely has the emotional beats that can hit you really hard, and just overall is a decent experience from start to finish. All right, moving forward, I still can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, number 18 goes to For All the Dogs by Drake. Those of you that have been with me since the very, very first video on this channel, you would know that there has been many segments, many bits on this channel of me sort of dogging on Drake. Hell, I've been dogging on this man since before I've had a YouTube channel. But as much as I like to dog on Drake and as much as I want to dog on him right now, I cannot allow myself to say that this is a bad album, because it really isn't. It is the first Drake album that I've enjoyed since Nothing Was the Same. That album came out back in 2013. So, it took freaking 10 years later, but Drake finally got me, with songs like First Person Shooter with J. Cole, Amen with Tizo Touchdown, and the I Don't Give a Fuck track with Yeat. With all those bangers and the many more memorable, surprisingly enjoyable moments from Drake himself on this record, I cannot bring myself to say that this is a bad album. It is in fact a fairly decent, enjoyable album. I definitely understand why it's going to be at least top 10 for a lot of people. It definitely isn't in my top 10, but I still wanted to recognize it because it honestly is pretty enjoyable, and this is coming from the guy that does not like Drake at all. So yeah, let's keep going. At number 17, we got the debut solo album by Zombie Juice, Love Without Conditions. For someone who is often known as the nasty, like party animal and just easygoing member of the Flatbush Zombies, we are seeing Zombie Juice in a much more different environment. We're seeing him in a much more like vulnerable state. He provides a really great psychedelic and boom bap experience, definitely an ode to the era of hip hop that he's a really big fan of. Not only do we see that in this record, but we see that a lot whenever he does have a few verses with the Flatbush Zombies. It's just overall really cool as a Flatbush fan to see Juice sort of take control of a full verse. You know, he shines on his own on here. You know, he has a few great features, especially with the Underachievers and Michi Darko himself, another member of the Flatbush Zombies. It's just overall a really great experience that I think both lovers of the old school hip hop and the new school hip hop would really enjoy. It really has like that modern twist, but once again, a really great ode to the sort of classic era of hip hop altogether. At number 16, we got Vorik Dyer by Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist. The fact that these two have made so many great songs together already, it is very criminal to think that this is their first time making a joint album together. You know, the great thing about a rapper like Earl and a producer like The Alchemist is that on every new album that they drop, they always go above and beyond, you know, sort of testing their own limitations. So not only does Al push Earl as a artist on this album, but Earl pushes Al as a producer as well. Because not only do we get some of the best and most creative lyricism from Earl Sweatshirt in a very, very long time since some rap songs on this record, we also get some of the most creative production work by The Alchemist. You know, I have been following this man's work since high school, and I don't think I've ever seen this man go above and beyond the production like he did on this record. It really goes outside of the box. It's definitely one of the best hip hop albums to have come out in 2023. Unfortunately, not a lot of rap albums really caught my attention in 2023, but this one is definitely a great hidden gem that I think a lot of rap fans will learn to appreciate and love. Number 15, we got Let's Start Here by Lil Yachty, one of the most talked about records of 2023, which rightfully so. This, in my eyes, started the sort of 2023 trend of rappers sort of staying away from rap and experimenting with different sounds. You know, I have said this a lot of times. If we allow Yachty to just grow up a little bit while he's doing his own thing, he is going to eventually drop a really, really great project. And that's what we got with Let's Start Here. You know, from start to finish, it is a really great journey of self-reflection that is greatly influenced by psychedelic rock. Honestly, the production is the biggest highlight in my eyes. You know, not only do we get really great guitar solos, but it's just so freaking dramatically different from Lil Yachty's like past albums. You know, you really can't help but be shocked to hear the different sounds, but also you can't help but be excited to see, you know, how different each track is. You know, each track reaches different heights as it keeps going, and Yachty himself has improved so much in his singing voice. You know, he has done a really good job with adapting to like a new sound, to like really, really trying to find his sound and really trying to figure out what he wants to do as he keeps going. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but for the first time, I am really, really excited to hear what Yachty has in store for us in the future. I know he has that new sort of rap group called the Concrete Boys that so far have been really impressive. They have not been disappointing. So yeah, definitely gonna check out more of Yachty. The reason it's at number 15 is because there was just a few more that were a little bit better than this, but I still had to give Yachty a shout out because it is definitely one of the most shocking and great like experiences that I've had since listening to Tyler the Creator's Igor that came out in 2019. Number 14, we got Victor by Vic Mensa, his second studio album, which is basically a rebirth of Vic Mensa since the last time we heard him in his 2017 debut called The Autobiography. Although we are seeing a much more serious and a much more mature Vic Mensa since the last time we heard him, it still doesn't stop him from creating some pretty like silly and just epic bangers in my opinion. My favorite one being Swish, which has the best verse we've heard from Chance the Rapper in a very, very long time, despite G-Eazy's verse being so short and unnecessary. I really appreciate that Vic and Chance just sort of came back to recreate the magic that they had back when acid rap came out. So, you know, it was just really, really great to see that happen again. It's a really great story driven record as well. Some really great storytelling, especially with South Side Story with Common, but also some really great melodies from Ty Dolla $ign once again. And of course, Thundercat himself on Strawberry Louis Vuitton. It's just overall a nice mix of, you know, the new Vic Mensa, but also a really good balance of, you know, what Vic Mensa is known for making. So either way, it is one of the better rap records that have come out back in 2023. And I think, once again, it's something that a lot of rap fans will grow to appreciate. At number 13, we got Conway the Machine presents Drumwork the Album. Although Conway himself has been incredibly underwhelming and disappointing back in 2023, I still had to give this record a shout out because it is the best collaborative album I've heard from a record label since Dreamville's Revenge of the Dreamers Part 3. The current roster that Conway has signed to Drumwork so far are honestly a force to be reckoned with Seven the Genius providing some of the best storytelling I ever heard in a long time. You know, she kind of gives off those like Storm vibes from the Outlaws back in the day. Lucky Seven, of course, has the best flow, and Jay Skis, in my opinion, is the best lyricist out of the whole roster, with some really, really great hooks provided by Goose by the Way and SK the King. Honestly, these guys have so much potential to take on the rap game by the palm of their hands, and I'm definitely excited to see what else these group of misfits do as the years go by. At number 12, we got a short EP by rap duo Earth Gang called RIP Human Art. Not only is the title absolute facts, but it is definitely a very fun, like funky, electric sort of rap vibes that we get. Earth Gang keeps evolving and evolving as they keep going. And the best line on this entire EP is, "Hello Karma, I just fucked your mama." That is all. Number 11, we got another short EP by Jeremy Zucker called Is Nothing Sacred. Fun fact, it is the only album that I heard back in June because nothing else caught my attention, so it is no surprise that it made it to the list. Basically, some more emotional and relatable and just vulnerable tracks by Jeremy Zucker. The first musical project that hit me in a very emotional way, which is always expected when it comes to a Jeremy Zucker album. And it's just really great to see him play around with different sounds. You know, there's like more upbeat songs on here, despite the lyrics being very depressing and very emotional and just very tear-jerking. The reason why it's not higher is because I would have definitely preferred a full-length album by Jeremy Zucker, since it's been at this point maybe too close to 3 years since we've heard anything from him. But hopefully this is a nice little like taste of what we can expect the next time we get another full-length album by Jeremy Zucker. At number 10, we got the debut solo album by Andre 3000, New Blue Sun. Yes, I know, that's crazy. This man has been gone for nearly 2 decades, and we have finally gotten a new album by this guy. Now, admittedly, I wasn't in love with the idea of Andre 3000 dropping an album where he is not rapping at all, where it's just pure instrumental, specifically a flute album. You know, this has become a very, very like funny meme in 2023 when he announced this album. But honestly, you know, all jokes aside, I found myself like oddly enjoying this entire album. I've heard many instrumental albums in my time, and I don't think I've heard anyone be as passionate with their instrument playing like Andre was with the various flutes that he has throughout this whole record. You know, I really love that although you don't hear him specifically talk, you do get a lot of his like wacky personality in the song titles. You know, they are the longest and most ridiculous, like troll-worthy fucking song titles ever that I think has beaten any title that Panic at the Disco has made in their past tracks. For me, the 7th track on this album is the most creative and the most like interactive one, as it sounds like some shit you would hear off a Silent Hill video game soundtrack. Like, it is honestly like has such creepy vibes, and that's where a lot of the tracks stand out as well. Like they each have a sort of like happy, sort of like meditating vibe to it, while some have like really scary vibes and just really like peaceful vibes as well. You know, this whole record is just a vibe if you are into instrumental albums like that. You know, honestly, if you are not usually someone that listens to instrumental albums like this, then I definitely understand why you wouldn't really vibe with this. But with all things considered, even if this is the Andre 3000 album that you think we didn't really deserve after this man has been gone for nearly 2 decades, I think this is the Andre 3000 album that we were all waiting for. And I'm definitely excited to see what else he does next. Maybe he'll make an actual rap album next time, or maybe he'll continue this a sort of like new passion that he's found. Honestly, even if an album isn't saying any words in it, it doesn't mean it's not sending a message. So yeah, that's definitely a reason why I appreciate and love that Andre 3000 came back with the whole ass Flutes album. At number 9, we got Cracker Island by the Gorillaz. This album has like the most creative production I've heard in a Gorillaz record in a very long time. The creative combinations of synth pop, disco funk, electro, folk, and even pop punk at some point. They just all create a very beautiful scenery to the strange yet amazing things that this record has to offer. Whenever I think about a new Gorillaz album, I think about the new sort of creative and wacky songs I'm about to hear. And instead, I found myself feeling, for the very first time, incredibly emotional on a Gorillaz album. Especially on Bad Bunny's verse in Tormenta. This whole album just kind of gave me this vibe of like, this is like the last time we're gonna see the Gorillaz for some reason. That may not be true, but it definitely gives off those like really like sad, sort of like getting lost in your own thoughts sort of vibes. Of course, there are a few fun tracks on here, especially with Skinny Ape, the title track with Thundercat, and also Oil with Stevie Nicks just provides one of the most like unique experiences ever. And also Silent Running is another really great sort of catchy, funky vibe as well. Um, Overall, it's just a really great record to get lost into. It does its job at keeping your attention, and overall, it's just a really like great experience. They definitely take you to another world. You definitely feel like you're on Cracker Island, just being a loner, I guess. At number 8, we got Blanket by Kevin Abstract. Unfortunately, Brockhampton is no more, so we are obviously expecting some solo projects from the band members here soon. But obviously, the first one we were going to get was Kevin Abstract, since way before Brockhampton was created, he already established himself as a solo artist. Kevin Abstract has provided us with one of the most well-produced albums that I've heard in 2023, as he is definitely on a mission to get away from any Brockhampton comparisons. I really enjoyed the 90s vintage like rock vibes on here. Kevin has experimented with many different like pop and rock sounds before back in the day, but this is definitely like the most creative I've seen. I really enjoyed his lyrics and just a lot of the really unique hooks that he provided on here. He definitely has a few like vulnerable and emotional moments as well, especially with talking about feeling both the sad emotions, the happy emotions, and everything in between, and the really like personal breakup anthem that he has on here. But my favorite moment on the entire record was the final track called My Friend, I believe. It has a feature with Kara Jackson and MJ Lenderman. These three have such a great chemistry, and I would definitely love to see these three like collab more. And it's just a nice send off to what is the rebirth that Kevin Abstract so desperately needed after Brockhampton's demise. So yeah, although it is sad that Brockhampton is no longer together, I think it is definitely what Kevin Abstract needed to create this pretty impressive album, and hopefully it'll encourage other band members to make really great albums like this one as well. Number 7, we got Chelsea Cutler's third studio album, Stellaria, which honestly, although a lot of Chelsea's past production work has been really impressive, I think this one itself is the most creative and the most impressive that I've seen from her work. Because it was just really great to hear her create this album from complete scratch. Every loop, guitar, drum sound, bass note, just everything about this album just gets better and better, you know, as each track has its own uniqueness and they get more and more interactive as you keep going. Not only do Chelsea's lyrics get a lot more creative and a lot more vulnerable on here, but her vocals like definitely reach a lot more different heights to the point where you can basically feel the emotion, the passion, the pain that she has to offer on this whole album. You know, she has definitely been dominating the indie pop scene for a very, very long time now. And I think that this record was the right push she needed to reach new heights and to hopefully make more personal and bolder albums like this one. It is definitely the best pop album I've heard all year, and I'm definitely excited to hear more from Chelsea in the future. Number 6, Scaring the Hoes by JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. Admittedly, an album that I had a really hard time to get into at first. It ended up getting better and better the more I kept listening to it. You know, not only does it have some of the best lyricism and some of the most outrageous lyricism as well from both Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia, but it has some of the most chaotic and outrageous like hip hop production that I've heard in a very, very long time. You know, for this being the most anti-rap album I've ever heard, it is definitely the realest and way more creative hip hop albums that we've gotten in a very, very long time. You know, both Peggy and Danny are some of the best rappers from their respected eras, and I would definitely be down to see them pave the way for more anti-rap albums like this to be made. You know, for them not really following like a norm of how hip hop should sound like, it has definitely worked in their favor, not only in their solo albums, but definitely in this album in particular. Number 5, we got Austin by Post Malone, another shocking record from a rapper who ditches the rap and trap vibes that we've heard in his previous work. And instead we get a much more like personal self-discovery journey of in this pop produced album. It is honestly a big surprise for me, you know, considering that a lot of the big highlights in Post Malone's work were the guest list, and now we have a record where he carries it all by himself, absolute zero features, and instead we get some really incredible vocals from him, some of the best produced work that I've seen in Post Malone's album since Hollywood's Bleeding. This is just overall has a really nice message of enjoying right now today, and honestly, it's just a really great, pleasant surprise that I don't think any of us was expecting from Post Malone. So, yeah, definitely another creatively unique, produced, and just overall like great concept of an album. Number 5, we got How Do You Sleep at Night by Tizo Touchdown. It is an album that I've had on repeat nonstop since it's first come out. And so it's definitely no surprise as to why it's in my top 5 right now. You know, it is the best unique album I've heard in a very, very long time. We have heard Tizo on so many features, you know, with Tyler the Creator and Don Toliver, Drake, Travis Scott. You know, this man has shown so much potential to be a fucking force to be reckoned with in the music industry. And now that we have gotten an album where he has creative full control, it turned out a lot more better than any of us were expecting. You know, every track on here is unique. You know, it has that sort of like funny vibe to it. You know, he's a very like wacky character, and it shows on a lot of the tracks, especially on Neighbors and Mood Swings, and you know, just a lot of creativeness throughout the entire album. Every track is produced in a very unique way. He has many different elements of music to it, you know, not just the few R&B vibes, a few pop punk vibes, you know, a little bit of rap here and there. It's just overall a whole mixed bag of just great music that I think any lover of music would be into. Yeah, Tizo is definitely my favorite new artist to have come out in 2023, and I'm definitely excited to see what else this man does next. At number 3, we got Never Enough by Daniel Caesar, easily the darkest and just best work that we've seen from Daniel Caesar so far. It definitely has a lot of dark elements, with Shot My Baby being the best track on here. You know, that is such a really dark and just interactive storyteller. I never would have thought that I would vibe to a song where a man is talking about killing both his wife and the person that she cheated on him with, and you know, hiding their bodies and whatnot. Like it is definitely like such a bold and unique song that I've ever heard it on an R&B record. Features like Omar Apollo and Serpent with Feet really contribute to the dark vibes, but I also didn't mind the only upbeat song that this record has with Ty Dolla Sign. Overall, it is the best experimental R&B record that I've heard since Don FM with The Weeknd. Once again, just Daniel Caesar's best work so far, and it is a really good example as to why we create such beautiful things during our darkest hours. I really love the dark elements. I just love the overall like creepy like vibe to it. It's just, yeah, it's just definitely the best R&B record that I've heard in 2023. At number 2, we got Lana Del Rey's Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard. Admittedly, I am late to the party on this one because this is the first Lana Del Rey album that I've ever heard. What started off as just a simple recommendation from a friend ended up being an album that I connected to the most in 2023. This album has some of the prettiest vocals that I've heard in all of 2023, with some really beautiful lyrics and some really obscure lyrics altogether, especially on songs like A&W and Peppers and Candy Necklaces. Just the overall dark theme throughout this album is just really great. This is Lana's most personal work yet, and honestly, I can see it being her best work throughout her whole catalog. Like I said, even though I am very late to the party, I can finally see why there is so much hype over Lana Del Rey. She is a really creative songwriter, and she just goes above and beyond her music. And I'm definitely excited to see what else she does next, and definitely excited to hear her previous work just to see how it measures up to this beautiful piece of work that we got from her in 2023. Which now leads me to my number 1 pick. My favorite album of 2023 goes to Westside Gunn's And Then You Pray For Me. For those of you that have been with me since the very beginning, this is probably not a surprise to you guys, since I started off my channel having such a big passion and love for hip hop. And while admittedly a lot of hip hop albums that have dropped in the past 2 years or so just hasn't really been hitting the same for me, this album in particular was a really, really great reminder as to why I really, really love hip hop and why it was the first genre that I got into as I was, getting more into music while I was growing up. While it is a bit strange to see Westside Gunn not drop more than one album in 2023 like he usually does every year, I was okay with this being the only Westside Gunn album we got in 2023 because it is his most influential work yet, as he has gathered some of rap's most elite artists and elite producers to create such a great experience, and once again remind us why hip hop is such a great genre and is a genre that keeps evolving, at least when you have the right people to conquer it. Westside Gunn still provides us with his most hardest bars yet on his signature sort of boom bap style production. He does play around with other music elements as well, not only going back to the roots of what made trap music so great, but even playing around some soulful symphonies as well. A lot of the features on this album contribute very well to this great experience. Not only do we get really good, Griselda bangers with Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine, but we get some really great lyrical death matches with Denzel Curry and J.I.D., and even some classic street rap from Rick Ross and Jeezy. But the biggest highlight is definitely the production value, as each different producer provides their own uniqueness, their own sounds, making every track sound different than the other. Personally, Miguel the Plug is the best producer on this entire album. I think he is on maybe 4 or 5 tracks, and all of them are just really great. They're the most unique produced ones that I've heard in any Westside Gunn album, with Conductor Williams being a close runner-up to being the best producer on here. He has, I think, maybe 2 to 3 tracks on here that he produced that both go extremely hard, and it is, all 3 of those tracks are easily the best songs that I've heard from Westside Gunn as well. As someone who has been really missing that classic sound to hip hop that I first fell in love with when I first heard a rap song back in middle school, it is no surprise to anybody why this is my number 1 pick. Yes, it may not be everyone's number one pick, but this has definitely had the most impact on me. Not only has Westside Gunn kept lyricism alive in this album and that classic sound alive in this album as well, but he has yet again proven why he doesn't only make music, this man makes art. And with that being said, I can finally focus on reviving this channel. I want to thank you all for just bearing with me these past few years as I get my stuff together, trying to find the motivation to pick up the camera again and talk in front of it. Please, I ask that you bear with me as I try to get over this sort of anxiety. I haven't done this in 3 years, and so I just feel like I have forgotten how to act a little bit. So please bear with me as I get used to this again, me talking to you guys. It's very humbling to see that even after my unintended 3-year hiatus from my channel, I'm really glad to see that you all still stuck around just to hope that I one day come back. So this is me finally promising that I will be back. I will be back doing these videos, and hopefully I can make them a lot more entertaining, and hopefully you guys will stick with me for however long I decide to do this. So with that being said, I hope you're excited for these new albums that I'm going to be talking about. There are quite a few that I need to talk about already, which will happen in time. So yeah, until next time, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys. Lalo. God damn it. What? What do you want? Aren't you forgetting something? Like an album that maybe wasn't on your list? Missing something? Shit, let me see. No, everything's on here. Hello? You see this? Utopia by Travis Scott? Oh, yeah, right. Utopia. Listen, I really appreciate the amount of influence this album has had on a lot of people in 2023. I just personally wasn't vibing with it or rocking with it as much as everyone else has. What? Yeah, for sure it is a fun album, especially in the production, but it's just honestly wasn't as great as Kill Yourself. What? Kill yourself. Do us all a favor and take a shot of something really strong. Get in your car and go for a drive, and don't you ever come back. Are you telling me I waited 3 goddamn years, 3 years of you being gone and making these little teaser videos here and there of a great comeback you're about to make, only for you to play with my feelings and never come back until now? And then when you finally come back, not only do you give us this top 20 list albums way after 2023 has already ended, but you are also saying some blasphemous shit about Travis Scott's Utopia not being an album of the year or not even worthy to be on your shitty goddamn list. You know what? I love that you like to critique and make fun of Anthony Fantano's takes so much. Then I turned your videos on, and they're not that great, especially with that fucking stuttering ass, shaky ass voice you got. Just do us all a favor and shut the hell up for once in your life. Oh my God, was that me? Did I just say all that? Dude, oh my God, I am so sorry.